Good day, everyone. So, again, I'm Kimberly Jane A. Fernandez, together with my companion, Miss Rima Mendoza. So, now we will be discussing about the history of Philippine educational system. So, let's start. So, first we have the pre-colonial period. So, the economic situation of pre-colonial times was a great contributor and a major factor in the system of education in the Philippines. Primitive communal Asiatic feudalism were the types of society present before Spanish colonization, with their practical and subsistent mode of production, they to provide education that was plain and simple. So the medium of instruction used was alibata, the native alphabet. So it's commonly known fact for us Filipinos that Baybayin was the language used by certain ethno-linguistic groups in Luzon and Visayas, but primarily by the Tagalogs during the pre-colonial era of the Philippines. So what is Baybayin anyway? So baybayin stems from its root word baybay, meaning to spell. The term was first coined in Vocabulario de Lengua Tagala by Pedro de San Buenaventura. So it serves as one of the earliest Philippine Tagalog dictionaries. So baybayin contains three vowels, which is the a, e or e, or o or u, and 14 consonants, which is the ba, ka, ra, ga, ha, la, ma, na, nga, pa, sa, tawaya. So, is alibata the same with baybayin? So, alibata was a term coined by Paul Rodriguez Versosa in 1914. He based this term on the Arabic alphabet, alif, ba, and ta, from the Maguindanao Moros and was turned into alibata afterward. The reason why alibata is a wrong term is that there is no clear or strong evidence that pre-colonial Filipinos derived baybayin from the Arabic language. In addition, the baybayin script has no relation whatsoever to the arrangement in the Arabic alphabet and was deemed only a presumption in the 20th century. The educators or the teachers during the pre-colonial era were the Babaylan and the Catalonan, gifted with wisdom and knowledge and spirituality and the system of running their own society. They were respected by the people of the society. Therefore, the type of education that was taught was one of the beliefs and traditions. So, Babaylan or Catalonan, also known as Filipino shamans. These shamans specialize in communicating, appeasing, or harnessing the spirits of the dead and the spirit of nature. So when the Spaniard came, according to Amoroso and Abinales 2005, the Spaniard broke the anito and other ritual instrument which they dragged through the village, burned, and made young boys defecate on them. So this effectively dishonored and depowered the Babaylans while defilling the ancient religion of the Filipinos. So eventually, God won and drove the Babaylans to the mountains, where they were branded as witches or mangkukulams. However, since there was insufficient scientific learning, they lacked efficient means of economic production. Education was truly valued by early Filipinos. The fathers trained their sons in how to hunt and other means of maintaining a livelihood. On the other hand, the mothers were in charge of their girls, instructing on household chores. The purpose of this type of education was to prepare both boys and girls to become good husbands and wives in the future. Both Filipino men and women knew how to read and write using their own alphabet called alibata. Communities were Muslim similar to those on Mindanao, and education was proliferated through the religion of Islam, and imam or ulema were the declared teachers. The children were taught how to read, write, and comprehend Arabic by using the Quran as their holy book. Informal and unstructured are best words to describe the education in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era. The type of education was not institutionalized and separate institutions were not in place. Specialization in education also did not exist.
So second, we have Spanish period. So compared with the system of the early settlers during the pre-Spanish time, the system changed into a formal system. So the first Christian school built in the Philippines was mandated by the Augustinians established in Cebu in 1565. The establishment of school from the primary level to the tertiary level education came about all because of the religious congregations. So Christian doctrine were the main focus of this school. So Christian doctrine is what the entire Bible has to say on one particular subject. So school for boys and girls were separate. However, only wealthy Filipinos or the ilustrados were accommodated by the schools where negative effects were brought about the colonial education for the Filipinos. So the Spanish authorities in the Philippines were mandated to educate the natives, to teach them how to read and write, and to learn Spanish based on King Philip II's Laws of the Indies or Leyes de Indias. However, given the realities of the time, the last order was quite impossible. First, the number of Spaniards in the archipelago was limited, so the teaching of Spanish at the time was minimal. So in the Spanish period, we have the educational decree. So the public school in the Philippines was born in 1863 with the passage of Education Reform Act and Spanish view to the compulsory education of Filipino children. Separate school for boys and girls were established in every pueblo. Jesuits established Colegio de San Ignacio, the first college school for boys in Manila in 1580. Followed by another university, Colegio de San Ildefonso in Cebu in 1595. It was in 1589 when the government entrusted this Escuela Pia to the Jesuits. Later this was called Ateneo de Municipal, which is now the famous Ateneo de Manila University. Colegio de San Jose was also established in the early 1600s by the friars after the Jesuits. The Dominicans also claimed their reputation as they established one of the best universities in the Philippines, the University of Santo Tomas, which was opened in 1611. So around in 1630, another university was set up built especially for orphan boys called the San Juan de Letran. In 1589, Colegio de Santa Potenciana was opened for girls. This was the first school for girls. Following the birth of the first school of women, Colegio de Santa Isabel opened in 1632. The religious congregations instituted Beaterio. The sole purpose of this was to provide education for orphan girls who could not afford educate themselves.
Next, we have the American regime, 1898 to 1946. Similar to Spaniard, American brought cultural and traditional changes to the country during their 45 years of colonization. Even today, these strong influences can still be seen in the lifestyle of Filipinos, with their motive to spread their cultural values, specifically the English language. To the Filipino people, education became a very important issue for the United States colonial government, and they used it as a tool to fulfill their visions. Every child from age 7 was obligated to register at the nearest school. School supplies were provided to the student for free. During the American period, levels of education were divided into three: the elementary level, secondary or high school level, and college or tertiary level. If the student excelled academically, they were given the chance to continue their studies and to pursue their expertise in their chosen field in United States. Scholar was a word used for them as the government covered all their expenses. In return, they were to work in government offices after they finished their studies. Judge Jose Abad Santos, Francisco Benitez, and Dr. Honoria Sison were some of the successful Filipino scholars. Volunteer American soldiers were the first of Filipino teachers, and wherever they go they have to build classroom as part of their mission. In June 1901, pioneer teachers stopped teaching when a group of teachers from the U.S. came to the country aboard the ship around August of the same year. 600 more teachers, called Thomasites, arrived abroad with the ship USS Thomas. Elementary and secondary left behind by the Spaniard were recycled and new ones were established in cities and provinces, namely agriculture, business, normal, and vocational schools. The following were some of the most important colleges during the American occupation, and to do this day, they still exist. Philippine Normal School in 1901, now a university. National University 1901, St. Paul University, Dumaguete 1904, Zamboanga Normal School in 1904, now a Western Mindanao State University, University of the Philippines 1908, the University of Manila 1914, Philippine Women's University 1919, and Eastern University in 1933, while a Philippine Nautical School, the Philippine School of Arts and Trades, and Central Luzon Agriculture School were offering vocational education at that time.
So now we have Japanese occupation. So the Japanese occupation started in 1941. Changes in the system of education were implemented a year later, embodied in the Military Order No. 2 in 1942. They spelled out the basic principles and guidelines of education on reopened and operating schools. These were the following. So first is to enrich the Filipino culture and to stop patronizing Western countries like United States and Great Britain. Second is to recognize that the Philippines as a part of the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere so that the Philippines and Japan could have a good relations. Third is to boost the morality of the Filipinos and instill consciousness of materialism. Fourth, to forget and to stop English language learning and instead learn and adopt Nippongo. Fifth, to proliferate primary and vocational education. And last, to foster love for work. So as soon as the Commission of Education, Health and Public Welfare was established, the opening of school followed in June 1942. On October 14, 1943, the Ministry of Education was sponsored and created by the Japanese government. During their time, the teaching of Tagalog, Philippine history, and character education were observed in schools. Passion for work and dignity of labor was emphasized. On 27 of February 1945, the Department of Instruction was now under the Department of Public Instruction. Aside from teaching Nippongo and using entirely pro-Japanese books and materials at all levels of education, the Japanese shows, movies, and organized cultural productions performers, such as singers and dancers, were brought to the Philippines together with painters and scholars. Commonwealth period. So in this period, education also plays a premium on nationalism, with pupils learning about the lives of Filipino heroes. Learners were also taught proper manners and discipline. In line with the 1935 Constitution, free public education was given across the nation. A private education institution was created to monitor private schools. Legal basis of education. So President Manuel L. Quezon issued Executive Number 134 of 1936, establishing Tagalog as our national language. Executive Order 217, often referred to as the Quezon Code of Ethics, was taught in public schools. Executive Order No. 263 mandated the teaching of the Filipino national language in the senior year of all high schools and during the regular schools. On August 7, 1940, the Philippine Assembly passed the Education Act of 1940.
Post-colonial period. Education aimed at the full of realization of democratic ideals and way of life. The civil service eligibility of teachers was made permanent to pursuant Republic Act 1079 in June 15, 1954. A daily flag ceremony was made compulsory in all schools, including the singing of the national anthem pursuant the Republic Act 1265 approved on June 11, 1955. Elementary education was nationalized and matriculation fees were abolished. Curricular offerings in schools: the life, the works, and writing of Jose Rizal, especially the No Limitang Here and El Filibusterismo, shall be included in all levels. The fundamental aims of education in the 1973 Constitution: foster love of country, teach the duties of citizenship, develop moral character, self-discipline, scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. JED is responsible for higher education by virtue of RA 7722 or the Higher Education Act of 1994. In August 2001, an RA 9155, otherwise called the Governance Basic Education Act, was passed, transforming the name Department of Education, Cultures and Sports or DEX to Department of Education or DepEd, and refining the role of field offices like regional offices, division offices, district offices, and schools. In May 15, 2013, RA 10533, also known as the K-12 program, the K-12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic education, 6 years of primary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school. To provide sufficient time for mastering concept and skills, develop lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for tertiary education, middle-level skills development, employment, and entrepreneurship.